Our focus is primarily on earlier stage, high-grade district scale exploration, looking for something that's high enough grade that you can make money when silver prices are low and big enough that you can survive multiple market cycles. Catch those highs, that's how you really make a discovery. And we have 4 projects that we think fit through that. And we're taking an approach that we refer to as an ore systems approach. So rather than looking at the little tiny piece that was left behind, we're looking at the complete thing. We're gonna make some forward-looking statements. We're a junior company. As you know, it's important to do your homework before you make an investment, whether it's this or anything. So we have 4 projects that fit through our high quality, high grade, big scale. We have an exploration team that has taken that ore systems approach and repeatedly found success, primarily through, my father's the exploration team lead, co-founder of Mag Silver, Peter Megaw. But the other thing I would mention is our geos, who are the boots on the grounds guys. Those are the same guys that were involved with the discoveries of Juanicipio and Cinco de Mayo and Platosa. So in some ways, you could look at Reyna Silver being the boys are back together. And in addition to that, we also have our CEO, Jorge Ramiro Monroy. I get too excited. I start hitting things. Good thing there's no glass of water here. He's here as well, and he brings his expertise from the capital markets, his networks from Southeast Asia and Australia, and not only has that allowed us to put together a balanced investor register between institutions and retail, as well as significant board and management, but it's given us access to capital when our peers haven't. And that's allowed us to take forward these 4 projects. So we have the Batopilas project in Chihuahua, as well as the Gigi project in Chihuahua. Batopilas is special in that it is a native silver district. So historically, this is Mexico's highest grade silver district. And considering the fact that 9 out of the 15 largest silver districts in the world are in Mexico, I mean, if you're gonna go exploring for silver, Mexico's the place to go. And it's a special type of deposit. We've gone in there, we said, let's look at the full system. And when we did that, not only have we found more high-grade silver, but we've also found gold. And as we're putting together the pieces, we found, through rethinking the whole framework, we found the widest intercept to date in the district, as well as a whole new silver vein. And then the other 3 projects we have are what are called carbonate replacement deposits. So you've been hearing quite a bit about these because economically, they're beautiful. So you get big systems that can be very high grade. They're metallurgically docile, so you get high recovery rates of your silver, your lead, your zinc. You can get copper in these systems, especially when you look at them from that full ore systems approach. They're associated with porphyries, and sometimes they even have a gold component. So you have Gigi, which is at the heart of one of the world's largest carbonate replacement deposits. It's actually where my father did his PhD and developed the exploration model that's been used to success for the discovery of things, some really big deposits, not only Cinco de Mayo, but you also look at what's been done at Taylor Hermosa, the discovery of that deposit. South 32 picked it up for $1.2 billion. And at Gigi, the Santa Eulalia district, you know that we haven't found half of that ore system. By the definition of looking at CRDs, the source and the proximal mineralization has yet to be found. So that's what we're doing at Gigi. At Medicine Springs, we have the other 2 projects are up in Nevada. We've acquired those since going public. We have Medicine Springs where we think we have the full system. And then we have Griffin. And Griffin, we acquired this last year, and it's example of when the market's where it's at right now, that's when the truly great projects pop loose. And this thing's amazing because not only is it a CRD, but it's got a Carlin-type gold overprint on top of it. So if you want to talk about marvelous economics, you get your silver, lead, zinc, your gold mineralization. This thing's also got a critical metal component, not just copper, but there's also a nickel element as well that we're sorting out. And it's our newest project to us, but simultaneously, it's the most advanced project that Reyna Silver has. So this is actually going to be where we're focusing this summer. And it's what we're currently working on a raise for. So we've been busy the last year. So Batopilas, that's the district where the main ore mineral there is native silver. If you guys want to see, afterwards, I've got a specimen of the ore. It's, for those that you don't know, native silver just means pure silver. It pours almost sterling, just like straight up. It's really cool mineralization. And we stepped out, took a big leap out, found gold. And then that spurred us to do a whole rethink of the district. So we did geophysics, sampling, structural study, put those pieces together. And when we did that, we said, okay, there's some new areas that we haven't thought of. Let's test them. And when we did that, not only did we find a new silver vein, but on top of that, we also found our widest intercept to date, which was 30 meters of silver mineralization, starting 3 meters from surface. So we've made some leaps forward at Batopilas. We're working on figuring out where to go from there. Then at Gigi, we said, we've been doing some good work. We're narrowing in on the source of the system because on CRDs, if you can figure out where they came from, you can work the ends against each other. You're in a district that produced 500 million ounces of silver. So if we can take those two pieces, I'm gonna set myself a timer here. Take those two pieces, work them against each other, can we figure that out? And then we worked with a group that's doing AI optimization of geophysics. So rather than looking at just the singular best case situation, can you look at a whole spectrum of the best cases, the 1,000 best cases of the geophysics, overlap those, and then design a drill hole from there. So that's what we're working with on Gigi. At Medicine Springs, our drilling program this year, 75% of our drill holes hit high-grade silver mineralization. It's showing itself to be a potent system, and we did geophysics there. We've got 2 big geophysics anomalies that we're pulling together. We're gonna apply that AI optimization there as well. And then we have Griffin, which I'm gonna kind of spend the main portion of this presentation talking about, because that will be our focus for this year. These are the characters that are behind the company. This slide is about to become out of date, in part because we are currently doing a financing with the idea of closing on the 5th. We're really lucky that we've had strong support throughout this financing. We've closed the first tranche and we're upsizing. So, you know, we appreciate that people see the potential with Reyna Silver. They like our projects, and like us, they believe in it. And obviously board and management believes in it because board management and advisors own over 17% of the company. So, Griffin, why am I like really excited about this company? And it's because we have an asset that's gold, silver, critical metals. It's over 10,000 hectares, and it's in some pretty crazy territory. So, Griffin's there in the center. It's in Nevada, at which point you're probably thinking, how has this not been, you know, everyone's poked at Nevada. And it's true. The focus on this project, for obvious reasons, has been on the gold mineralization. And it's in a lot of ways been sort of a stealth asset because it's been held by the same underlying vendors since the mid-90s. A group of great geologists. It's been with majors and a private. And the focus there has been shallowly on gold. Because you're in the Carlin trend, you're in the Battle Mountain Eureka trend, when you're in the gold mega districts and you have as much gold as you have at Griffin, that's going to be your focus. However, Nevada's the silver state. And the reason it's the silver state is in large part because of the carbonate replacement deposits that are there. So 72 kilometers to the south, you have the Eureka district, where Ruby Hill is, where I-80 said, hey, we've been, people in this area have been focusing on the Carlin mineralization for the last couple of decades. That's right. CRD mineralization is lurking underneath us, and that's where they've been finding those big carbonate replacement deposit, high-grade silver, lead, zinc, big zinc numbers. But what made Eureka special, historically, was the gold kicker. And you see that same combination of CRD and gold mineralization, not just at Eureka, but you also see it 54 kilometers to the north of us at the Railroad District, where Orla just consolidated with Contact Gold. And you see it again up in the Emigrant Rain District. So you get CRD mineralization earlier, then you get that gold overprinting. And that's one of the reasons we got really excited by Griffin. And, you know, what we see here is that the structures have carried the mineralization repeatedly. I'm realizing that this is the older version of the presentation, so I am going to quickly take a step forward, and then I will go back. So, explaining carbonate replacement deposits real quick. CRDs, you have your source porphyry, that's the pink thing that's sitting right there. You normally associate that with copper and gold. Coming off of that's acidic mineralized fluid. It comes through the structures, and then when it comes in contact with the carbonate, limestone, dolostone, you get an acid-base reaction, the metals drop out. Now that I've said enough big words that you think I know what I'm talking about, I can use an analogy to try to translate the geo into English. So the way that I kind of like to wrap my head around CRDs is like it's a public transportation system. So that source, that porphyry is like a bus terminal. And coming out of it, those routes, those structures, the plumbing for the system is like your bus route. And each pulse of that acidic mineralized fluid is like a bus leaving the terminal, loaded with a bunch of metals. And different metals are hopping off the bus at different stops. So when you're close to the bus terminal and you're in the skarn zone, that's like being in the downtown area. So you have higher copper, gold, lead, zinc. Your silver grade might be a little bit lower than it is outboard, but that's where everything's voluminous. As you make your way further out into the system, you get into the suburbs. So your silver grade goes way up along with lead, zinc. Everything's a little bit tighter, but the grade's stupendous. And at the very end, the elements that fell asleep on the back of the bus finally get kicked out. Those are your trace elements that you use to vector your way through the system. A Carlin system is more like a bunch of little cars coming out. So it can go everywhere, but simultaneously, you're going to use those same main pathways, those main routes. And why that's important, see if I can get this to do what I want it to, is that it's something like Griffin. We have these big structures that have very evidently had multiple pulses of mineralization coming through them. So whether it's the gold mineralization or the CRD mineralization, we see it along the same structures. So, depending on how you stack the elements, different pieces will really pop loose. And the cool part here is that it means that we can take advantage of the shallow historic drilling where all 23 core holes have been preserved. So we have access to all of those. So we're actually going to do a strategic re-logging of the whole core this summer. So we'll be the first, or this spring, we'll be the first company to do that. Pull those pieces together, look at it, because the way that a CRD presents is different from the way that a Carlin presents. But if they're using the same structures, if they're using the same plumbing, we can leverage the two styles of mineralization to better understand the whole system, to understand the district. And so we're going to go through and re-log all 10,000 meters. On top of that, there is historically 133 RC holes here. Now, granted, the average depth there was about 55 meters, so that's realistically an enthusiastic soil sampling program. But nonetheless, it can give us data points that we can build upon that we're not having to put our own capital into putting together. On top of that, the project came with 39 kilometers of IP, 17 kilometers CSAMT, NSAMT, grav, mag, hyperspectral, LiDAR. We get to pull all of this together. There was a sagebrush study, mercury vapor study, all these pieces that we now get to wrap our arms around, put into a cohesive database, integrate it together, and that's where our drill targets for this summer are coming out of. And we have some really exciting ones that we're putting together. On top of that, one of the pieces we're working on is an independent 43101 compliant technical report. And the idea there is that will allow us to take that historic data that we've been working our way through and bring that to the market so that you all can better understand why it is we are so excited about Griffin and what we're doing here. And we can look at this from that big system perspective, especially when you look at some of the numbers we see in the samples. So there's over 4,000 samples that have been taken here. For instance, the green, that's all the zinc. That runs 3 to 35% zinc. The silver runs up to 2,000 grams silver, particularly in an area that has never been drilled before. And then on top of that, we have this copper component that's really coming together, which is intriguing to us because from a CRD perspective, copper is related to heat source or that bus terminal. And if you can figure out where that source is, that's where mineralization is bigger. And so our copper numbers run up to 11.6% copper at surface. We have these structures that every 20, 30 meters are these bleeding blue structures. It's really an interesting piece, and that is a claim package that was not put together until and integrated into the overall system until Reyna got a hold of it. So, you know, putting the pieces together, seeing what comes out of there, and particularly when of the 13 key features that we see associated with the big carbonate replacement deposits, just doing our due diligence process with our own eyeballs, holding the features in our hands or with standing on them with our feet, we can see 8 out of the 13 key features, and we know we're gonna be able to check off a whole lot more of these. And essentially what it boils down to is you gotta be in an area that has the ability for a porphyry. You have to be in a section with a bunch of carbonate because thick sections of carbonate's what's required for a carbonate replacement deposit. It's the magic host rock. To have the room to grow, gotta see high grade, which we're already seeing. And then the rest of these features tell us that the bus left the terminal multiple times. And one of the exciting factors at Griffin is not only do we see evidence of the bus leaving the terminal multiple times, but we also see that Carlin-type gold mineralization. And we see repeated events of gold mineralization as well. So we think that this is potentially a significant district for Nevada, and are excited to put together the pieces and build upon, you know, the other projects we have, whether it's Medicine Springs, where we think we have the whole system. It's telling us we've got room to grow and high grade, and everything's got a, you know, potent mineralization. We've got 2 big geophysics anomalies that we're putting together now. Then on top of that, we have Gigi. We're looking for the other half of one of the world's largest CRD systems. Work those 2 ends against each other, hone in on the source. We're getting closer, and we're using the technology that we can to optimize and give us an edge. And, you know, or you're looking at Batopilas, where we go into the native silver districts. We find gold, we rethink the district. Now we're finding new veins. We're finding good mineralization from surface, and we have a whole other target put together. And so what we've done is good work. What we're going to continue to do is move the company forward based on geology and see whether or not we can make a major discovery. Any questions, comments, concerns, or jokes?